Wake up. Yes, I'm talking to you. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Because every single day you delay learning English, you are silently saying no to better opportunities, better confidence, and a better future. As an English teacher, I've seen this again and again. Students waiting for the perfect time. Let me tell you something honestly. That perfect time does not exist. The only time that matters is this moment. So let me ask you a powerful question. How long will you keep understanding English but not speaking it? How long will you stay silent when you know you have something valuable to say? Speak every day, no excuses. Let me start with a question that might challenge you. If you don't speak English today, what makes you think you will suddenly speak it tomorrow? This is where most learners get stuck. They wait for confidence, they wait for perfection, they wait for the right moment. But here's the truth. Confidence doesn't come before speaking, it comes because of speaking. So if you're waiting to feel ready, you're already delaying your progress. The fastest way to break this cycle is simple. Open your mouth and start speaking, even if your voice shakes, even if your sentences are not perfect. As an English teacher, I've seen students transform their skills, not because they studied more grammar, but because they made one powerful decision. They spoke every single day, not once a week, not only in class, but daily. Think about it like going to the gym. You cannot build strength by thinking about exercise. You build it by showing up consistently. English works the same way. Your speaking ability is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. And if you don't use it, it stays weak, no matter how much theory you know. Now, here's something important. Speaking every day doesn't mean you need a partner or a classroom. One of the biggest myths is that you need someone to practice with. No, you don't. You need commitment. You can speak alone, and it still works. Describe what you see around you. Talk about your plans. Explain your thoughts out loud. Even simple sentences like, I am going to eat lunch, or today I feel motivated, are powerful when spoken daily. Why? Because you are training your brain to think in English instead of translating from your native language. That's the real shift that leads to fluency. Let me give you a strong hook. Imagine yourself 1 month from now. If you speak English every single day starting today, even for a short time, your fluency will improve noticeably. Your hesitation will decrease, your confidence will grow. But if you continue to stay silent, nothing will change. The difference between these two versions of you is not talent, it's daily action. Also, use repetition as your secret weapon. When you learn a new sentence, don't just read it once. Say it out loud multiple times. Practice it in different situations. Change the words slightly and create new sentences. This is how you make English natural and automatic. The goal is not to remember English, but to use it without thinking too much. And remember this, consistency beats intensity every time. You don't need to speak for hours, you need to speak every day, even on your busy days, even when you don't feel motivated, even when you think you're not improving. Those are the days that matter the most, because discipline creates results, not motivation. So take this seriously. Make speaking English a daily habit, just like eating or sleeping. Protect that time, respect that practice, because every word you speak is building your future. Every sentence is taking you one step closer to fluency. And the moment you stop making excuses and start speaking daily, that's the moment your English truly begins to transform. Focus on real-life conversations, because that is where true English lives and breathes. Let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever studied English for years, understood grammar rules, memorized vocabulary, and still struggled to speak in a simple situation like introducing yourself or ordering something? If yes, you are not alone. This is one of the most common problems learners face, and the reason is simple. You are learning English in a way that is disconnected from real life. So here's a powerful shift. Stop learning English only from books and start learning it from life. Think about how language is actually used in the real world. People don't speak in perfect grammar all the time. They don't pause to think about tenses before every sentence.
Conversations are natural, fast, and practical. So if your goal is to speak fluently, your practice must reflect that reality. You need to train yourself to handle everyday situations, greeting someone, asking questions, giving opinions, making small talk, or even expressing emotions. These are the skills that truly matter. Now here's a strong hook. What if I told you that mastering just 100 real-life conversations can make you more fluent than studying 1,000 grammar rules? Sounds surprising, but it's true. Because communication is not about how much you know, it's about how effectively you use what you know. When you focus on real-life conversations, you learn patterns, expressions, and responses that you can immediately apply. This makes your learning faster, easier, and more enjoyable. As an English teacher, I always guide my students to practice situations they will actually face. For example, imagine you are at a restaurant. Instead of just learning words like menu or food, practice the full conversation. Can I see the menu, please? I would like to order. Can you recommend something? This kind of practice prepares your mind for real interaction. The next time you are in that situation, you won't freeze. You will respond naturally. Let me give you another engaging hook. Why do some people understand English but still hesitate to speak? Because they have never trained their brain to respond in real time. They recognize words, but they don't know how to use them in conversation. Real-life practice solves this problem. It teaches your brain to think quickly, to form sentences naturally, and to communicate without overthinking. Another key point is emotional connection. When you learn through real-life situations, your brain connects the language with experiences. This makes it easier to remember. For example, if you practice talking about your daily routine, your hobbies, or your goals, you are using English in a meaningful way. It's not just information, it becomes part of your life. And when learning becomes personal, it becomes powerful. Here's something practical you can start today. Create daily conversation scenarios. Choose one situation and act it out. It could be a job interview, meeting a new person, talking on the phone, or asking for directions. Speak both sides of the conversation if you are alone. Yes, it might feel unusual at first, but this method is incredibly effective. It builds confidence and prepares you for real interactions. Let me challenge your mindset with another hook. Imagine walking into any situation and being able to speak confidently, without hesitation, without fear. That level of confidence comes from practice, not from theory. Every real-life conversation you practice is a step toward that version of yourself. So shift your approach. Make your learning practical, interactive, and connected to real life, because when you train with real conversations, you are not just learning English, you are preparing yourself to use it anywhere, anytime, with confidence and clarity. Don't fear mistakes, learn from them. Let me begin with a question that might change the way you see your entire English journey. What if your mistakes are not the problem, but the solution? Most learners believe that mistakes are something to avoid, something embarrassing, something that shows weakness. But as an English teacher, I can tell you with complete confidence, mistakes are the most powerful tool you have. The real danger is not making mistakes. The real danger is staying silent because you are afraid of them. Think about this for a moment. Every fluent English speaker you admire today was once a beginner. They mispronounced words, they used incorrect grammar, they struggled to express simple ideas, but they kept speaking. They made mistakes, corrected them, and improved step by step. Now here's the hook. If they had waited to be perfect before speaking, they would still be waiting today. Perfection is not the starting point. It is the result of consistent effort. Let me challenge your mindset with another powerful idea. Every mistake you make is feedback. It is your brain learning what works and what doesn't. When you say a sentence incorrectly and then learn the correct version, your understanding becomes stronger than if you had just memorized it from a book. This is called active learning. It engages your mind, builds memory, and improves your ability to use English in real situations. But here's where many learners struggle. They take mistakes personally. They feel embarrassed, they lose confidence, and sometimes they stop trying altogether. This is a mental barrier, not a language barrier. You must separate your identity from your performance. Making a mistake in English does not mean you are not intelligent. It simply means you are in the process of learning, and learning always involves trial and error. Now, let me give you a strong hook. What if I told you that the students who make the most mistakes often become the most fluent speakers? It sounds surprising, but it's true. Why? Because they practice more, they experiment more, and they are not afraid to take risks. They treat every conversation as an opportunity to improve. On the other hand, students who avoid mistakes often avoid speaking, and as a result, their progress becomes slow. As your teacher, I want you to adopt a new rule. Speak first, correct later. When you are in a conversation, focus on communicating your message, not on being perfect. If you stop every second to think about grammar, you will lose fluency and confidence. Instead, speak naturally and then reflect on your mistakes afterward. This approach allows you to build both fluency and accuracy over time. Here's a practical technique you can use. After speaking, take a moment to review what you said. Identify 1 or 2 mistakes and correct them. Repeat the correct sentence out loud. This simple habit turns every mistake into a lesson. Over time, you will notice that you make fewer errors and speak more confidently. Another important point is to create a safe learning environment for yourself. If you are afraid of being judged, start practicing alone or with supportive people. Record your voice, listen to it, and improve gradually. Remember, progress is more important than perfection. You are not competing with anyone else. You are improving your own skills. Now, let me challenge you again with a hook. Imagine a world where you never made mistakes. Would you ever learn anything? Of course not. Growth comes from stepping outside your comfort zone, trying new things, and yes, making errors along the way. So instead of avoiding mistakes, start embracing them. See them as signs that you are pushing your limits and expanding your abilities. And also understand that mistakes are temporary, but the confidence you build by overcoming them is permanent. The more you face your fears, the smaller they become. The first time you speak and make a mistake, it might feel uncomfortable. The second time, it feels easier. And after many attempts, it becomes natural. This is how confidence is built, not in a single moment, but through repeated action. Another key idea is to celebrate your progress, not just your correctness. If you were able to express an idea today that you couldn't express yesterday, that is success. If you spoke without hesitation, even with a few mistakes, that is progress. Focus on what you are achieving, not just on what you need to improve. And here's a final hook to keep you thinking. Imagine walking into any situation and being able to speak confidently, without hesitation, without fear. That level of confidence comes from practice, not from theory. Every real-life conversation you practice is a step toward that version of yourself. So shift your approach. Make your learning practical, interactive, and connected to real life. Because when you train with real conversations, you are not just learning English, you are preparing yourself to use it anywhere, anytime, with confidence and clarity.
Stay consistent and practice smart, because this is where real transformation happens. Let me start with a question that might surprise you. Why do some learners study English for years and still struggle, while others improve dramatically in just a few months? The answer is not talent, not intelligence, and not even time. The answer is consistency combined with smart practice. Without consistency, even the best methods fail. And without smart practice, even hard work becomes wasted effort. Now, here's a powerful hook. What if I told you that 20 to 30 minutes of focused English practice every day can change your life faster than studying for hours once a week?
It sounds simple, but it's incredibly effective. Your brain learns better through repetition and regular exposure, not through long, exhausting sessions. When you practice daily, you build momentum, and momentum is what turns small efforts into big results. As an English teacher, I've seen students who were extremely motivated at the beginning. They studied for hours, watched videos, took notes, but after a few days, they stopped. Then they started again and stopped again. This cycle breaks progress. Consistency means showing up every day, even when you don't feel motivated, because motivation is temporary, but discipline creates lasting success. Let me challenge your thinking with another hook. Are you practicing English, or are you just spending time with English? There is a big difference. Smart practice means you are actively engaging with the language. You are speaking, listening, repeating, and applying what you learn. Passive activities like just watching videos without speaking or thinking will not give you the same results. You must be involved. You must interact with the language. Here's a simple but powerful structure you can follow daily. Divide your practice time into small, focused activities. Spend a few minutes listening to English. This helps you understand pronunciation and natural flow. Then repeat what you hear out loud. This improves your speaking and confidence. After that, practice speaking on your own. Talk about a topic, share your thoughts, or describe your day. Finally, review and learn from your mistakes. This combination makes your practice effective and balanced. Another important idea is to keep your practice realistic and achievable. Many learners set very high goals at the beginning, like studying for 2 or 3 hours every day. This might work for a short time, but it is difficult to maintain. When the routine becomes too heavy, they lose consistency. Instead, start with a manageable goal, 20 or 30 minutes daily, and stick to it. Once it becomes a habit, you can gradually increase your time. Let me give you another engaging hook. Imagine building a wall. You don't build it in one day. You place one brick at a time, every single day. Over time, those small bricks create something strong and lasting. Your English skills work the same way. Every word you learn, every sentence you speak, every minute you practice is a brick, and consistency is what keeps you building. Also, practicing smart means focusing on quality, not just quantity. It's not about how much time you spend, but how effectively you use that time. For example, instead of learning 50 new words in one day and forgetting them later, learn 5 words and use them in sentences, in conversations, and in real situations. This way, those words become part of your active vocabulary. Another key factor is tracking your progress. When you practice consistently, you may not notice improvement every single day, but over time, the change becomes clear. Record your voice, write short paragraphs, or keep a learning journal. When you look back after a few weeks, you will see how far you have come. This builds confidence and keeps you motivated. Let me challenge you again. What usually stops you from being consistent? Is it lack of time or lack of priority? Because the truth is, if something is important to you, you will make time for it. Even 15 minutes a day is possible if you are committed. It's not about having time, it's about making time. And here's another hook to keep you focused. Your future fluency depends on your daily habits, not your occasional efforts. What you do every day matters more than what you do once in a while. A single day of practice may not seem significant, but when repeated over weeks and months, it creates powerful results. Also, don't forget to make your learning enjoyable. If your practice feels boring, you will struggle to stay consistent. Choose topics you like, watch content that interests you, and practice conversations that are relevant to your life. When learning becomes enjoyable, consistency becomes natural. Finally, understand that progress is not always visible immediately. There will be days when you feel stuck, when you think you are not improving. This is normal. Learning a language is a gradual process. The key is to trust the process and keep going. Every day you practice, you are moving forward, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment. So commit yourself to consistency and smart practice. Show up every day, focus your effort, and use your time wisely. Because when you combine daily discipline with effective methods, your English will not just improve, it will transform.